Hi everyone. So I just want to talk quickly about some things that I'd wish I'd known before starting college. So I'm going to focus mostly on academics because I think these are generalizable to a larger group of people. So a little bit about myself is that I graduated this past May with a degree in economics and politics, and I've also asked some of my friends for some input on these. So I know that college is currently disruptive due to the global crisis. So hopefully it goes back to normal. But I think that some of these can also be applied to, online college or any way of learning you may experience in the near future. So my first tip of advice is that people come from all sorts of different backgrounds to college, and you never know, what they've done previously. Maybe they've already taken a course, or they, have gone to a community college before. So don't compare yourself to people too much your first semester, and don't be discouraged. So one concrete example of this is one time I was studying for an economics test my first semester, and I remember I was struggling so much with this one question, and then my friend came over and she was like, "Oh, what are you working on?" And she basically got the answer in like 5 seconds, whereas it had taken me an hour to figure it out. And I just felt so discouraged. It was like, how do you know this in 5 seconds? But remember that people have always taken other courses, or you don't know, especially if it's a large class, you don't know about everyone's background. So if the grades fall, the grade distribution is a certain way, you don't know what these people have learned previously. So don't get too discouraged. The same thing with, comparing yourself with things like internships or, um, you know, heading into some sort of academic societies. Don't feel too worried. I think college is 4 years long or 3 years long or however long it is for you. And really, it's different for everyone. So if you feel like you're behind, don't get too stressed out about it. I think in general, things will work out. The worst thing you can do is just worry so much about something, because I think like eventually, um, you don't want to have spent so much time worrying about certain things, and it's just a waste of your time. And again, you don't know other people's backgrounds and things. So the second advice I'd have is to listen to your advisors, because I do personally think that they usually have your best interest at heart, or at least know the workload of certain classes or have evaluated complaints from other students. So if they recommend that you take prerequisites or other courses before you take a certain course, or like think your course load is not feasible, definitely listen to them. I think it's very easy, especially if you're going into college, to think, I've managed high school, I managed to do all this, like I can do this. But I think that they do have some experience in the job, so definitely listen to them. I know that my advisor, before I went into college my freshman year, she recommended that I take this math course, and I'd already kind of done similar math in high school, or just with a different method. So I was like, why would I take this course? I've already taken this. There's really no point. But I think it would have helped me a lot to use the methods that they would have taught in that course and my other courses. So I think for sure they do have experience and they kind of know what they're talking about. So of course you can question their advice, or, ask follow-up questions if it's really all that great. But definitely I'd say, especially your first semester, they do tend to know what they're talking about. I'm not saying that's always the case. If you're not happy with the degree plan they plan out for you, you can ask them. But, for the first semester, I'd say that's something I'd recommend. My third advice is to go to office hours. So one thing that I feel like people don't acknowledge about office hours is that they're a great place to ask questions before the exam. And that's not just you, it's that other people also go to office hours and have questions. So I think I used to feel kind of intimidated, because I used to be like, why would I just go to office hours and ask questions for, all this time? But a lot of times you'll only be asking one or two questions, and then the other people will also be asking questions. So don't feel like it's just you asking questions. This is especially the case before exams or times like that, or if you go at a very busy time. If office hours are like 9 to 12, a lot of times if it's like 11, it'll be more full than maybe like the 9 a.m. slot. But you can always do that. And also, if you go to talk about something, it also holds you accountable, or at least for me, it did that. So, if you're going to discuss a certain concept, you want to make sure you understand that concept before. So, for me, that was a great way to really study the material and be prepared before I went to office hours. So, that's why I think they're a great resource besides, your professors tell you, like having people write you letters of recommendation. I think these reasons often get overlooked. My fourth tip would be to follow up on things. I think colleges a lot of times are huge bureaucracies, and there are a lot of things that they have to keep track. They have to, keep track of, and a lot of it is computer based. So errors can occur. Sometimes, they'll accidentally count your your major elective as a general elective, or forget to transfer credits or do things like that. So what I'd say is to really follow up on this. So try to call them. Try to email them. I'd say try to get as much personal contact as you can. So I know that currently, of course, colleges are closed, but if you can, just show up in person. I think that's the best way for them to check things, because they're not going to send you away if you show up in person. Please, tell me this is done. And if you have to be on hold on the phone for an hour, I think it's worth it to make sure your credits are properly transferred. My college also had something called a degree progress report. So you want to make sure you check that, just so you know that you're on the right track to graduate. And that's generally what your advisors will refer to. But like I said, there can be errors. So make sure that you know what classes fit, but your advisor should be able to do that. Going off of that, I think another thing is that you can always change courses. Even after the semester has started. And sometimes there are unconventional ways to change them. So I know that even if a class says it's closed, I've heard of people just reaching out to professors, or, kind of opening up those classes with other means. So don't feel like your schedule is set, but always, I'd say, going off of the making sure you're graduating, make sure all those credits will help you graduate ultimately. So my fifth thing, I think, is to reach out to people in your classes. So this is something that I think is very helpful, and especially at a large, in lecture courses, it can be kind of intimidating, I find, especially if there's groups of people who already just have their friends in the class or just know people. But definitely, try to reach out to people, especially if you got there 5 minutes before the class. You can always talk to people. And ask for their number. I know it can seem kind of creepy at first, but I feel like if you do it enough times, you just end up being shameless and being like, oh, do you want to, text about the material? And then you can also set up study groups. So one way I've done this is also just sending a mass email to the class and being like, hey, does anyone want to study with me at this time, at this location? I even managed that online. So, just set up study groups. I think that's very helpful, not only for yourself, but also to hold yourself accountable. If you want to study with people, you should know some of the material, because you'll be discussing it. So it's a great way to study before you meet for the study group, if that makes sense. And also, I don't know, I'm someone who likes to study with other people, so that's been very helpful. And I think, just make sure you reach out early, because I feel like people are more willing to study with people who've been there since the beginning versus people who just show up the week before the final exam and are like, yeah, let's study together. And going off of that, another thing I'd say is sometimes there's these large groups where it's 200 people and it's a group me or something like that. I don't think those are as helpful, because they're helpful for things like I lost my charger in the classroom. Has anyone seen it? But as far as, setting up things, it's not the most helpful. So I'd say if you're in a group like that, ask to make smaller study groups and then just reach out to those people. So that's definitely helpful. So I hope that this advice was somewhat helpful, and that I could present you with any, points that may be helpful for your college degree. And I really hope all of you succeed if you've watched this video. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or would like to see me make a video like this concerning, social things or anything else you may want to learn about college. And I know it's disrupted at the moment, but hopefully, even if college changes, we'll still have education. So, good luck with everything.